Hey guys, Vern's here, back again with another Supercoach video. This time it's the round 13 review. And what a blistering week it was for us. Like, I really didn't think much damage could be done in this round. I thought this would be very minor movement happening, but we ended up coming out with a massive round, 203 overall for the round, and it pushed us up 736 places. Honestly, not something I saw happening at all originally. I did realize that my score was obviously very good partway through the week, but even with that, it just having a very good score I didn't think was going to be a huge difference in points irregardless. So I didn't expect to see a 736 rank jump, which is really good and awesome for us. It gets us really on track to cracking that top K, which is obviously the next goal we have. Puts us at currently 1,141, so that's honestly super dope, super happy with that. Now, I guess first thing to sort of address here is once again my trades. I ended up not bringing in Lloyd, which I might have baited a few people with saying I was going to do it. I think looking at it, Lloyd was the best pick of the bunch, but the bunch wasn't very good. And I didn't really know too much about Lloyd this season. Obviously, he was just having a bit of a better season than last season, and he's been a superstar for us in the past. And once I sort of listened to other podcasts, JD spoke about the Blakey effect on Lloyd, and with him being, with Rampy coming back, Blakey moving more into that distributing role, and then Lloyd maybe moving positions from there, or at least affecting him, sort of thing. That obviously ended up happening. I think the other one that sort of brought that up was Pistol on Dr. Supercoach's podcast, that Lloyd's good, but how is he going to be affected by Blakey? And Blakey is the better pick and player sort of overall. And it was a disaster for all Lloyd coaches that had picked him. He had 30 very early on, and until he got moved into his old position because Blakey went down with the concussion, then he started getting some points and sort of salvaged the score a bit. But that's sort of why I avoided it at the end of the day. Once I got more, I guess, information about Lloyd, it just didn't sound good. And at the end of the day, I didn't actually really have to make the aggressive trade to move Zeeble out. I did end up moving Zeeble on. Look, I'll bring up the team and just sort of show you where we are. We ended up actually bringing in with a bit of DPP Keys, which worked out massive for us. We swung Sheasel into the back line, brought Keys into the forward line, dropped to 115, which was awesome. Now, obviously, a lot of people that moved on Zeeble are going to feel a bit torched this week from it, because he comes back with, I think, the 107 it was. And he obviously looked a lot better. But with how he looked last week, it was very hard to keep him. And I actually considered keeping him for a period of time after, as I mentioned, listening to Pistol from Dr. Supercoach. I was kind of convinced that maybe, as I mentioned, I want to run Day as the D7M9. I was thinking I could swing Day with Zeeble. But then I also thought about the damage that could be done in the meantime. And I thought, look, this is a high-risk play, keeping Zeeble, with low reward. Like, even if he comes good, he's not going to come great. He's just going to come good to 100 average, be a decent enough D6 that it's passable. But he's still going to lose cash. So, even if he comes good, it's really not a huge gain. But if he goes bad, then you lose all this money. You have to move him on. Maybe you keep him for this week because you need him for the buy coverage, and then you just lose too much. So high risk for really minimal reward. So I decided, you know what? Let's just move on Zeeble, bring Keys in, swing Sheasel to the back, because I was considering moving Sheasel instead. Sheasel obviously came out with a good game, put out 98, which was awesome for us. But that's what I did with my trades instead. So I only used the one. The way I'm also sort of looking at this in my head is usually you'd go one down, sort of one up. Now in this case, we made a sideways trade, but the sideways trade, because I'm going to take Keys as a keeper for the rest of the year. So we moved one keeper to another keeper, but we banked 150k. So it's just as much as, moving a rookie to a base rookie. You're not really progressing the team, but overall, you're gaining that 150k to progress in the future. This, I still would consider potentially a progression, just in the sense that, as I said, worst case scenario for Zeeble, he doesn't end up a keeper, or at least not a very good one, where I think Keys is going to do us really well moving forward. Obviously, he's moved onto the ball. He's in that role when he was a killer player, and he was really on the cusp of being a uber premium is what I should say. He was definitely a premium when he was in that midfield, and now he's had 3 back-to-back weeks of 100 plus, and he's just just looking really good. If he holds that role, he's going to be very good for us, and he's definitely going to be a keeper. Obviously, he's going to still do some jobs for Adelaide. I think when they play Collingwood, obviously not this week because it's their bye, but the following week, he'll probably go and man Dacos and probably just pump out a 60 or whatnot. Sorry about that. My little doggo has come in to say hello and headbutted me in my balls because that's what he likes to do. Good boy. Please stop. But yes, where are we at? Sorry, I've lost my train of thought now. But yes, that's why I brought Keys in. It seemed like in that role, maybe we're looking at worst case scenario, I'd say 90, maybe 95. Zeebles, which is a passable F6, where Zeeble was worst case scenario, not even a keeper really. Also the money that we made. So at the end of the day, we moved Zeeble on before he crashed however much, and Keys ended up moving up 50k. So if we consider that swing, we banked 150k. If we did the trade this week, I'm going to assume Zeeble probably went down, or let's just say about 30, I would say at least. I think at least. Oh god, I don't know how to spell Zeeble. Did I get this wrong? Yes, I did. He went down, 28k. So at the end of the day, this is basically an 80k swing, doing it this week instead of, last week instead of this week, and we banked 150k. So it just worked out way better for us in this sense. And as I said, sorry to all those that kind of got baited into the Lloyd pick at the end of the day. Just wasn't a good move in hindsight. The other thing in hindsight that could have been amazing for us is, look, hindsight once again, bringing in Laird. So if we brought Laird in last week, the reason I didn't is I wanted to milk as much cash from these rookies as I could to try and progress the team, because we are in, sort of a cash gen situation here where we don't know if we're going to get there or not. So Weddle went up 14k. Yeah, Laird went up 12.4. The money they went up was negligible in the case that if I was looking to keep Weddle to get more cash gen, it just wasn't really worth it. I could have brought in Laird this week and banked a good 61 extra points, because my lowest scoring player that got moved out was Dawson and Petrarca. So the next one would have been Dawson or getting moved out, as Petrarca was already moved out. So could have banked an extra 61 points. Would have been really nice. Would have pushed us to like 4th overall for the round, but that doesn't really matter too much. At the same time, as I said, I was looking for cash gen. If Laird ends up coming up with a 120, dropping a little bit of money, as much as we're only really saving 15 or so k, it's extra money at the end of the day. It can be very important, but in this case, a 1k difference really doesn't mean anything. So unfortunately, we didn't bank more points this week by using this money, and instead just sitting there holding it. But what it does mean, it's very easy for us to do our trades, which will be bringing in Stewart. Not too sure rookie-wise where we're going with this. That might be one that I figure out in the week. I think Stewart's definitely coming in. Rookies we need to figure out just in the case that if the Geelong player plays, I forget his name. I know Pistol calls him the Irish Nick Dacos. If I bring him, if he ends up getting named, it'd be really good because he's a base rookie, 102k. You bring him in, and that means that you bank much more money. Well, an extra 20k on, another rookie that you'd bring in. So that would be cool. If not, we'll look at other options and we'll see what we've got. But overall, through the week, I guess let's start from the top. Sicily drops a 136, which is really dope for us. Obviously, he came out with the 78 with us when we first had him, plus the VC score, which was 50 higher than what we would have done if we didn't bring Sicily in. So he really netted us about 220 points in the first week. Yes, he ended up missing a round, but then he comes back with the 136. He's probably got us about 360 points over 3 weeks, including the game he missed. So still a 120 average if you count the game he missed, which is still really good in our team. So we're really happy with that. But obviously, the question is what happens with him and his tackle and Hugh McCluggage. If he gets 3 weeks, obviously he's just got to be a trade. You just can't have him sitting there for that long. You're not going to have him for the bye, then 3 weeks after that, and we just got to move him on. I wish we could easily say we'd get him back in, but he is 650k, so that could be very hard. I don't know, it's a hard one. It feels like they either got to give him the 3 weeks or they just got to let him off, because I don't know. I mean, we don't want to go over it, but yeah, it just really sucks that that's happened. But he's even saying that as 120 of the last 3 weeks, he's still been really, really good for us. So can't be unhappy with that. Nick Dacos kicks a goal right at the end to really inflate that score to the 118, which is awesome. He was hot early and then sort of put his foot off the gas. Overall, Collingwood's losing to Melbourne. I don't know. It wasn't... it was one of those things where we know the flu was going through the team, and I'm not going to make excuses. We played absolute garbage. If you wanted to see... If you guys missed Zeeble last week, that whole embodiment of the Collingwood team, that was Zeeble last week. It was bloody dreadful. Oh, God, we could just not hit targets. We were just a mess. We were fumbling. Ash Johnson couldn't land a mark. It wasn't a good game by us. We looked bad. So it's good to get the bye this week, and hopefully we can bounce back from there, get a bit of a mental reset. And look, the only reason the game honestly was close was purely that Melbourne were just letting us have a whiff. They kicked how many behinds? They could have flogged us by 60 points if they were on their game as well. I think they were obviously they were playing well, but they just weren't kicking straight. So they kick straight, they win that game by good 10 goals. But yeah, they decided to make it interesting and just keep kicking behinds. Dawson comes in with the 95. Unfortunately, it's not a bit higher. Obviously, Laird comes out with the 156. I think a lot of people thought this was going to be role reversed. They thought Laird might cruise because of him supposedly carrying an injury into an easy team and then into the bye week. And we thought Dawson would run over the top of them, but ended up sort of being a bit of a reversal there. And Dawson just ends up cruising while Laird goes off. And obviously, Tex gets the big double ton, which was awesome from him. Sheezel with the 98, played on ball a lot this week, which was really good. He was also behind the ball at points. Aaron Hall was still on the team, but yeah, North really didn't look that bad. Like, North really looked like they're developing, and they still potentially have a future to a degree, unlike West Coast. But yeah, Sheezel 98, we're really happy with that. As I said, Zeeble got the 107, but lost significantly more cash. How much did Sheezel lose? 9k, so he lost 20 more k, Zeeble did. As I said, Zeeble has the role, and this is the biggest thing with obviously JB and Pistol talking about this and Dr. Supercoach, and I guess the discussion all week between all podcasts is that Sheezel moving into the midfield meant that he didn't really have the role, and he was in an underperforming North team where if he ends up falling forward for spells and whatnot, it just means that he's probably not going to score great, where Zeeble has the role. So if Zeeble comes good, he's got the role to put out the stay a premium for the rest of the year, where Sheezel potentially can fall off a lot easier, as to why Zeeble was in my mind for that loop. But yeah, obviously didn't go with that. I'm going to stop talking about it because I've been waffling about that for way too long. Weddle comes in with a 68, which is cool. As I said, already sort of talked about him in the sense that I could have potentially gone Laird instead a week earlier, unfortunately. And it wouldn't have affected my buys. Now, obviously, Hawthorn got up, beating Brisbane, which was really dope. In regards to me watching games, I did have Comic-Con on Saturday, and then I drove to Bendigo to see my grandparents after that. So I was listening to this on the radio, which, I was actually stopped at a petrol station. I saw Dunkley on his 100 plus at 3/4 time, decided to move the C onto Constable, thought I'd listen to it on the radio, and if for some reason an emergency struck and just Dunkley didn't touch the ball in the last quarter, I would have I thought maybe I'd try and pull over and honestly take this the C off Constable, but it didn't really matter at the end of the day. I did want to get on Dawson, so it worked out much better getting it on Dunkley. Something Chris from Supercoach Insiders was talking about is he's the one that obviously convinced me on Ben Keys. He also mentioned that he wanted to put the VC on Neil because he thought Nash would match up with Dunkley, but as I mentioned, Pistol actually said that he felt like Dunkley was untaggable. And look, listening to these podcasts, obviously they help influence our decision, and I was very happy with Chris's explanation as to why he loved Keys. And personally, as I said, I always actually liked Keys from when he'd played on ball previously as a Supercoach player for us. And Neil, he has the ceiling. That's why it's very tempting to go Neil. But at the same time, I did agree with Pistol in this one that I did feel like Dunkley was untaggable, as to why the VC went to Dunkley. Sinclair at 125, sitting on my bench with the emergency. Fun fact, the reason I actually did this is because Sinclair has generally had such woeful games that I was like, if he comes out and has a dreadful game, I'm actually going to swing Mitchell onto the field and then throw the C on Madden if I need sort of thing. He ends up coming out with a great game, so we just end up just taking this, and then it's really a 50-50 out of Mitchell and Weddle, which doesn't matter because neither of them stick to the field. Track's score ends up getting the 91. A little bit disappointing. You got that in the back at the end when on Mitchell. If he doesn't get the in the back and he just gets the tackle stats, maybe he saves 10 points there, as it's a very close game. And he probably lost quite a lot of points from that, which was unfortunate. But that's all right. He's still 95, got the same as Dawson. Not a big deal at the end of the day. Bontempelli, 125. It's awesome from him. As I say every week, he's just like a very easy 110 plus captain option at minimum. It just feels so super consistent from him and just feels so good. Merritt, look, this is fine. He had Ed Como tagging him and sort of keeping him out of the game. Saying that, then Nick Martin just went off and absolutely ballistic on Carlton, who are just looking dreadful at the moment. I think that's the unfortunate thing with Carlton, from a Supercoach point of view, is playing against them. Somebody's gonna go off, but unfortunately, teams that do have this one standout, such as Essendon with Merritt, obviously they have Parrish and Shields and other great players, but I think Shields wasn't playing or Parrish specifically, so it just meant Merritt's really the main gun in the middle. Saying that, as I mentioned, Nick Martin was actually amazing anyway, so that doesn't really matter irregardless. Doesn't matter that Merritt got tagged. Apparently they still have gun midfielders, so yeah, somebody's always going to sort of get that Ed Kerno tag most likely, and unfortunately this time it was Merritt. 105 we're still very happy with, and it was actually a playable score for our team. Libel with the 139, this is awesome. He's a big pod for us. I think he's only in now 8% of teams, so very nice for us for him to get a big score. But yeah, I mean, the team looked really dope when you just looked at it on paper. When you only see the 95 from Petrarca, 98 from Sheasel, those were the only 2 sub-tons on my field. Oh, sorry, and then Johnson's 96, only 2 sub-tons on my field, and then the rest were just massive scores, which looked super nice. Neil came with the 102, already sort of, mentioned him. He wasn't the standout. He was very slow early, and then he came back, and then he just was slow. It was, I don't know. He disappeared at the start of quarters, came back for the second half of quarters, disappeared in the third quarter, came back for the final quarter, and somehow got to a 102. So we'll take that. Green 77, super disappointing. Honestly, so disappointing. What's this man 5-round average? It's not good. He is not being good. 5-round average of 95. Wow. 87 over the last few, 105 overall. Look, 105 is a takeable for our M9, for our M8, but this is dreadful. He's 21 overall in the season. He's no longer a top mid. I might honestly be swinging Day and Green for the rest of the season with the rate they're going. This is not good. This is something that if we could, we would definitely move on. I mean, he's got his bye coming up next week, and he's got Freo this week who bleed points to midfielders, so hopefully he can capitalize on that. Maybe get close to his break even. Melbourne actually give up points to midfielders, and Hawke are pretty restrictive overall, but look, I don't think I have the luxury of trading him, but god damn, he has not been good recently at all, which is really disappointing. Will Day with the 109, which is awesome, and this is why I talk about using him as a swingman. He has very high versatility in his scores. Volatility in his scores. He's gonna have these down games, but he will have these 110 games, 120 games. He will have good scores. When he generally just cleans up his disposal efficiency, he'll have really good scores. Unfortunately, we're probably going to get a lot of 70s to 80s out of him, and a lot of the time he's just going to sit on the bench with an emergency on him. But if he comes out a big game, we just loophole him on, and that's the plan for him. Johnson, absolutely, what a superstar. This man just so good. Unfortunately, Freo don't get the win here. They get taken down by Tigers, which look, they really could have blown this game out early, but didn't quite capitalize, and then Tigers just sort of roared back and got over them, and yeah. When I say early, I mean the first 10 minutes of the game specifically. Sort of like Collingwood, we dominated the early first 10 minutes. Freo did as well, and they just didn't really put the score on the board, and then when Richmond had their run, they put the score on the board, put the game out to a very hard margin to catch, and Freo just never managed to get it back. Sincota, 52. He also didn't really earn us that much money this week, which is unfortunate. Only 4K. Break even 26 at least, and he's got Gold Coast. Hopefully he can get the 250K and then we can move him. Angwin of 45, also not good from him, which sucks. So many times I feel like Angwin can get involved and he just doesn't want the ball enough. He's not a bull, unfortunately. Like he doesn't just stick tackles. He doesn't just see the ball, get ball. He just stands off sometimes, and he fumbled the ball multiple times too, which was very annoying for him, not like just grabbing it and being able to get a disposal. Just fumbled it, lost it, and never gets anything for that. Marshall comes in with a good game against the Swans, who obviously give up points to Ruckman. And Briggs just, honestly, is he R2 the rest of the season? I mean, he's had 4 games over the ton. Like, if we actually look at players overall, I want to filter specifically for Rucks right now. And I want to look at the 3-round averages when we look at Rucks. He's sitting at 3rd overall, so that's pretty good for us. 5-round average, 4th. Yeah, he could be a very doable. I mean, 5-round average, he's higher than Tim English. Jesus. So yeah, he could definitely be an R2 with the way he's playing right now, which is absolutely awesome. Absolutely bailed out for all of us Darcy owners, which we love. Oh, okay, and then we jump down to the forward line here. As I mentioned, Dunkley VC, which great, we love that. Timmy Taranto was actually on track to go much bigger. I feel like he's on track for a 160 and didn't really score in the last quarter. He was like 130, I feel, with at least 10 minutes left in that game, if not more. And he just didn't really do anything when Tigers sort of won the game at the end, and there was a lot of points up for grabs. That he could have been a part of. But I mean, still a great score, 136. I'm if I see someone on 130 with 10 minutes left in the game, I'm very happy with that. I guess just a bit of a comment there that he could have definitely had a much bigger game. McRae 120, this has been a great pickup for us. He's been just really good since he's come to our forward line. And yeah, all our Dogs players just put out really good scores, and I felt really good after the Dogs game. And yeah, obviously English didn't have a good score, which, well, the 99 is not a bad score, but it's bad for English, and that personally made me feel really good about this week. And definitely a week that we're going to have a good, rank jump, not owning English when he has a bad week. Rosie gets the 108. Very happy with that. Goulden has a terrible game. Didn't really play on the ball. Was a bit of a weird role, and the game just wasn't really for him. I remember him giving up a few free kicks, just getting tackled. Holding the ball early is really painful for your score, which is unfortunate. But Keys comes out with a good game, at least to finish us off with our last scoring player. He kicks a goal early on in the game with a game that definitely does a bunch of scaling towards the early game. So that was really good, and just played really good overall. And he definitely, I think, spent a little bit more time forward this game. But you know what? If you spend a bit more time forward when you win by 120, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. And then Eddie Ford comes out with the 84. Awesome. That's really made some extra, some good cash for us with that, which is awesome. He's still got a break even of 8. So the 84 comes into his cycle. So the 83 leaves his cycle, but he gets an 84 instead. Yep. So hopefully one more good game here against Dogs, and maybe he can just jump up a bit more, and we can use him to hopefully upgrade the following week. I guess we'll just jump into our trades for now. Probably was a bit too long waffling about every single player there, but that's fine. As I've already mentioned, we're getting rid of Weddle, getting rid of Seamus Mitchell. We're going to be bringing in our boy Stewart. Overall, this is unfortunate. As we mentioned, we've been tracking Stewart versus Sinclair since round 5. Stewart outscored him by about 300 points. So that does suck for the overall rank. I guess that's just... I feel like most people do that. You make a coin flip decision. I honestly just liked Sinclair, and I knew I had the cover in the first bye round, and I wanted to get Stewart after this bye round because I felt like I could... I did capitalize in this bye round, but I was going to say I felt like I could capitalize in a bye round when people have Took and Stewart and whatnot out, and I managed to get a full premium team on field. And I mean, I still didn't get a full premium team on field because Johnson ended up stealing a spot from one of the premiums, but that's why I did that, and it didn't work out overall, unfortunately. 300 points lost there between that decision. but that's fine. We're getting Stewart in now, and he's just... I wanted someone to also upgrade to after this bye. Now we need to look at bringing in rookies, so we're just going to go nice and cheeky here, break evens. And there just isn't really a good option. As I said, if Mullen gets up to play a third game here, I think he's going to be the one I go for personally. Yeah, I think that's that simple. Hopefully Mullen gets up. If he doesn't, he doesn't. That is what it is. But we managed to do that and still hold on to 350k, which means upgrading next week after Oliver and Laird come off their bye. That's obviously who we're going to be targeting. We have the boost to do 4 trades, so yes, we'll go down to 4 left. We want to flip Sheasel at his bye, but we just put all the premiums on field for now. Right now we've got our basically full premium team if we're going to be keeping Briggs. If we end up bringing in Oliver and Laird, there's the team basically complete. We can flip Sheasel potentially. Hopefully without a 1-up, 1-down, we can flip him. That would be really cool if we have enough money banked up for that. Go down to 3 trades left. We would have Will Day as our swingman as well, as I mentioned. I'm thinking Will Day would be really good swingman with Sinclair and Green. So I think they're the two. Sinclair's been very up and down himself, and Green as well. So I think they're the ones that I would target with the swing. But what that means is at the end of the day, I have someone covering my defense and midfield if someone goes down for like a single game, so it's really not a big deal. It's really only the forward line and ruck where I'd have to make moves. If Briggs needs to be moved on, that's rough, but something that we would need to potentially do. As I mentioned, we're going down to 3 trades if we can do the 1. If we do have to do 1 rookie down, it does suck to go to 2. I'd prefer to only get to 2 if I was just straight switching Sheasel. I don't think I'd be able to maybe straight switch Briggs. Maybe he's making a lot of money. He might be able to do that. But yeah, I guess that's what I would be looking at here to sort of finish the team. Now, unfortunately, if Sicily gets off or not, which is going to be super painful. If Sicily doesn't get off, he just has to be a trade, which instantly puts us 1 more trade behind. And then I don't know if he's someone we can get back in at a later date. Maybe I hold Sheasel for longer than his bye to get Sicily back in at a later date. It's hard to say what the decision is there. But yeah, as I mentioned, I didn't really want anyone for that week 1 bye week. I think as a lot of people were sort of talking about, they'd much rather... Doherty was playing better, but I don't trust Doherty anymore. Dale with Ed Richards out is definitely a good option. So he was potentially the one I think I was looking at to take this final spot. But he is quite expensive now, and yeah, I guess we'll just see what happens there. He doesn't have his bye until the final week, so even if I was to move Sheasel to him on Sheasel's bye, it's also Dale's bye, so it doesn't give me an extra body on field if I need that. But I guess, yeah, this is at least the trades that we're going to be doing this week at minimum, and we'll see what happens with Sicily. For now, let's just move the players that aren't playing onto the bench at the end of the day. Let's just move Dawson across. Now, we would need some miracle for Constable to come back in. I doubt he's going to come back in. As I said, I'm only picking up Mullen if he's playing because I need someone that's playing. I can't afford to have a dead rookie here. It's just not good enough. So that's what we're looking at in the back line. Now, we actually really hope Angwin holds his spot, because I wouldn't be surprised week in, week out if Angwin lost his spot, because I don't know, he doesn't do in my opinion, he just isn't very good, but I mean, he keeps playing and he's earning us money for Supercoach, so we'll take it while we get it. If Sharp got a game, that would be dope too. I doubt it. We're not gonna think Sharp gets one. Yep, this is fine for the ruck line, and Keys out for forward. So look, if we do just filter for the bye, we can see that we do have, in reality, 21 players there right now, but that is taking into account that Constable gets up and Sharp gets up. Now, there's a good chance that neither of those guys are going to play, meaning that there's only 19. Obviously, I'm only bringing a player in if they play, so we're always going to assume that. Let's just assume Mullen's playing, because even if he's not, I'm going to just bring in a player that is playing. So we're going to at least have 19 this week, so this will be fine for our bye week, no problem there. And then we obviously have the round 15 bye, where We can just rotate everyone around. As I said, I want to move out. I'll probably move out Chinkota that week. Angwin doesn't really have enough money on him, but he might be the next highest rookie, forward that week. So I move Chinkota forward out, and then we try and get potentially Laird and Oliver in. If we can only get one, I think I'll go Laird for break-even purposes. I think Laird is going to have a much better break-even after he's 150, where Oliver's is 130, I believe. And Laird he does usually torch the pies, but we've been pretty good this year, so it's hard to say. Break-even 95, yeah, it's still probably just a good time to get him in. I don't think you'd score much worse than that. Oliver's, as I mentioned, is around 130, but who are they playing? Because points on field is always important too. Playing Geelong, who give up a lot of points to midfielders, or at least who have been, specifically to him, actually. So maybe, look, let's just hope I can get both of them. It's a Thursday night game too, so that would be really nice to put the VC on him once I get him in. But yeah, that's how the team's looking. That's the plans for next week. Tell me how you guys went this week. I hope that you all have such a good week like I did. Like I'm actually so hyped that we gained 700 places. I just didn't see that coming at all. Sorry, I actually need to talk about captains here real quick. Sorry, captains for this week. I talked about next week's captains, but captains for this week. Honestly, you could look at a Butters Rosie into Geelong. They very much could go off here. Geelong just bleeding points to midfielders. Port looking really good at Adelaide Oval. Yeah, Butters and Rosie could be on the table. But I think I have to put the VC on Dunkley again, personally. They're at the Gabba. As I mentioned, Dunkley's just on an absolute heater. Just, 5 of his last... Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 games out of the last 5 over 145. That is insane. He's just on a heater, and he feels pretty untaggable. So the old Dunkley, we know that we expected to be basically the number 1 Supercoach player at the end of the year. He is back. He is here. It just took him a bit to gel with the team. So put that VC on Dunkley, and then don't even worry about it because you're Gucci. Look, a hard one with Brayshaw and Sarong. I mean, Green could also put up points here just because Freo give up points. What I do, I guess, question here is Brayshaw and Sarong definitely feel like VC players, and if we're going to be putting the VC on Dunkley, we're going to ignore anyone in this game. Briggs hopefully comes out with a good game against Jackson. That would be nice too. Tigers game. Honestly, nobody specifically I want to see the VC on. Sorry, the straight C on there, because, yeah, once again, VC's going on Dunkley, so we're not... No one's getting targeted in this game. Matty Rao could be potentially looked at in this game. I wouldn't personally, just in the case he gets the Ed Curdo tag, definitely a possibility. And as I said, we're just VCing Dunkley. So assuming everyone's VCing Dunkley, you're never taking a risk with a C on a potential tag target. So then we have to look at the very obvious Western Bulldogs versus North. And the question here is, would I put the C on Bont or Libba? Look, I feel very comfortable putting it on Bont for, as I mentioned, that 110 minimum in a worst case scenario. Sorry, did I click on Libba? I think I clicked on Libba. Yeah, clicking on Libba. Didn't have the greatest games against them previously, but saying this, yeah, he's dropped 280s in the year, but the rest are, he's dropped 200s. The rest are pretty much 120s plus. Look, I think if I had to take the gamble, I would take the gamble personally on Libba. Oh, he's only got a 111 as his highest score against North. That's pretty low. Maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I'd play it safe with Bont. I guess I'd see how the week's going at the end of the day. It's the very last game of the week. So if Dunkley doesn't work out, I would literally sit here and I've got to make my decision. And I'll make the decision depending on how I'm traveling. If I want to push for some extra points, I think go for Libba. If I'm already having a good week, I think I just take Bont. That's what I'd probably look at. Now, I wouldn't probably look at English just because I guess Goldstein's a restrictive ruck, but English doesn't score points in the ruck. He scores it by just being a very mobile ruckman that outruns his ruckman. So he'll probably get very free of Goldstein and Coleman Jones and whatnot, and probably actually score really well. So I actually think English could definitely be an option there. I think for most people, they're not considering Bont or Libba, they're considering Bont or English. Once again, I think it's the same thing. Just if you want that very safe captain score, you go Bont. If you want to play for a bit more, I guess, I forget the word I was looking for, but just a bit more risk, a bit more of the upside, then you put it on English. So I guess you just monitor how your week's going and you make that decision. You know what? Why am I even talking about this? Doesn't matter. Dunker's going to come out with a 150 and we're just going to take that anyway. So yeah, okay. Now I'm actually going to wrap up the video, guys. So yeah, once again, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate y'all for staying towards the end of the video. I appreciate those that like, that subscribe, that follow me week to week. So thanks so much, everyone. And I guess I'll catch y'all next week.